Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Samantha Harper adjusted her light coat as she entered the prestigious Dallas shooting range. The gleaming floor, the walls lined with pristine targets, and the metallic smell of guns gave the place an intimidating air. She had never touched a firearm in her life, but today she was determined to face her fears and prove to herself that she could do it. As soon as she stepped through the door, she felt their heavy stares. 10 men in suits, all local billionaires, were eyeing her with a mixture of contempt and amusement. Richard Beaumont, a tech magnate notorious for his arrogance, couldn't help but blurt out, "Seriously, are you here to play cowgirl, Miss Harper?" A dry laugh accompanied his remark. Samantha felt her cheeks flush, but instead of replying, she let her gaze sweep the room, noting the arrangement of the targets, the recoil of the weapons, the sound of the bullets hitting the metal. The shooting range vibrated with the echo of gunshots. The men around her seemed amused by her slightly trembling hands as she picked up her first weapon. She took a deep breath, feeling her heart pound in her chest. Every fiber of her being screamed at her to back away, to flee this ridiculous crowd, but she refused. Samantha knew that today wasn't just a simple shooting lesson. It was a silent battle for respect. Every laugh, every condescending look was a provocation she would turn into motivation. She took the weapon, rested it against her shoulder, and fixed her gaze on the first target. The billionaire's eyes gleamed with cruel amusement, but Samantha felt a strange determination take hold of her. She was ready to strike, 10 times, and to forever change the perception of those who dared to underestimate her. Samantha stepped towards the firing line, her hands slightly sweaty but her mind perfectly focused. The men in suits, all arrogant billionaires, stared at her with a mixture of mockery and defiance. Richard Beaumont shook his head with a sarcastic smile. "Are you sure you want to continue, Harper? You're just going to make us laugh even more." She didn't answer. She positioned her feet at the correct distance, gritted her teeth, and took a deep breath. The first shot rattled in her arm, and the bullet missed the target. Laughter erupted immediately, and Samantha felt the pressure mounting. Yet, she didn't panic. The second and third shots were also clumsy, but she began to analyze the tension in her shoulders, the breath she was holding, the slight trembling of her hands. Every laugh around her was like a goad, pushing her to concentrate even more. From the fourth shot onward, something changed. Samantha adjusted her stance, fixed her gaze on the target with surprising calm, and the ball finally struck the center of the ring. A murmur rippled through the shooting range, some men exchanged worried glances. She felt a new energy surge through her, a certainty that she could accomplish what no one expected of her. The fifth and sixth shots confirmed his change. Accuracy increased with each attempt. The billionaires, once mocking, began to fall silent. Richard Beaumont frowned, unable to hide his astonishment. The seventh shot sent a small cloud of dust billowing over the center of the target. Samantha surprised herself. The eighth bullet made a perfect hole, followed by total silence in the room. She took a deep breath, feeling a surge of pride she had never known before. The ninth and 10th shots were masterful. Each bullet struck the bullseye with chilling regularity. The wealthy men, who just minutes before had been laughing at her, were now frozen, mouths agape. Samantha calmly lowered her weapon, her face impassive, while the shooting range still vibrated with the silent impact. The 10 shots were not just a demonstration of precision, they were a silent but powerful lesson: never underestimate anyone. The billionaires, accustomed to owning and controlling everything, had just learned that determination could shatter prejudices and overturn hierarchies. Samantha turned on her heel and left the firing line, leaving behind a mixture of astonishment and forced respect. That day, she hadn't just fired bullets, she had pulled off the masks of arrogance and pride. A few minutes after Samantha left the firing line, an eerie silence fell over the shooting range. The billionaires, frozen by what they had just witnessed, exchanged incredulous glances. Richard Beaumont, who just moments before had been laughing heartily, ran a hand over his face, unable to hide his embarrassment. How How did she do that? Murmured one of the guests, a real estate tycoon, still in shock. No one had ever seen anyone, especially a seemingly inexperienced stranger, shoot with such skill. Samantha, meanwhile, walked calmly away, her bag over her shoulder. Each step resonated like an affirmation. She had proven something that money and property titles could not buy: respect through courage and perseverance. Meanwhile, the booth employees began whispering amongst themselves, impressed by the performance. One of them took out his phone and discreetly filmed the final shots. This video would soon go viral. Richard Beaumont, unable to remain silent any longer, addressed the group. "Well, okay, I suppose we underestimated Miss Harper." There was a mixture of humiliation and fascination in his voice. The other billionaires nodded, some blushing with embarrassment. Mockery had given way to reluctant admiration, mingled with a strange sense of self-doubt. Shortly after, Samantha received a message on her phone. The video filmed by an employee was already circulating on social media. Comments poured in: "Incredible precision, this woman just taught all the arrogant people a lesson, absolute respect." She smiled slightly. She hadn't done anything for fame, but seeing the reaction of those who had ridiculed her was a small, bittersweet revenge. The billionaires, for their part, now had to face an uncomfortable truth: money and power weren't enough to measure a person's true worth. Samantha left the shooting range that day with a new feeling. She knew she had triggered something unexpected, a silent shockwave that extended far beyond the walls of that shooting range. The 10 shots weren't just bullets, they were a symbol. The next morning, Dallas was abuzz. The video of Samantha Harper's shooting with perfect accuracy had been shared across all social media platforms. Local news outlets ran headlines like, "Unknown humiliates billionaires at shooting range." Comments poured in, some praised her courage, while others denounced the arrogance of wealthy businessmen. Richard Beaumont and the other billionaires had become the laughingstock of the town. Their pride had been wounded, and the public humiliation forced them to face the truth: they had underestimated someone solely because of his appearance and presumed inexperience. The atmosphere at the Beaumont Enterprises office was icy. Richard stood in front of his executives, clutching the phone in his hand, watching the video over and over again. "How could she do that?" he exclaimed, his voice choked with bitterness. I don't know, sir," his assistant murmured, unable to answer. "But the video is going viral, and everyone's talking about it, not you." Meanwhile, Samantha continued her life as normal. She had planned to return to the shooting range for more practice, but she already sensed a change. The looks she received were no longer the same. People she didn't know greeted her respectfully, some even seeking to meet her. The billionaires, for their part, were forced to reconsider their behavior. Richard Beaumont finally picked up his phone and sent a public message. "I publicly acknowledge my mistake and congratulate Samantha Harper on her incredible talent." It was a first victory for Samantha, but she knew that the real effect of her shots went beyond public apologies. She had shown that perseverance and determination could triumph over arrogance and contempt. And while the billionaires reflected on their newfound humility, Samantha smiled inwardly. Her 10 shots had done far more than hit targets, they had struck at the pride of those who thought they owned everything. A few days later, Samantha Harper's story had spread far beyond Dallas. The video of her 10 precise shots had been seen by millions of people worldwide. Comments praised her composure, her coolness, and her courage in the face of the billionaire's arrogance. Richard Beaumont and the other businessmen, once mocking and self-assured, were now forced to face the consequences of their behavior. Invitations to conferences, interviews, and even certain business transactions were now tinged with embarrassment. Everyone now knew about the shooting lesson given by a seemingly ordinary young woman. At the shooting range, Samantha returned a few days later, not to prove anything, but to practice more. The owners greeted her respectfully, some even offering her invitations to private events for demonstrations. The young woman realized that what she had accomplished went far beyond mere marksmanship. She had transformed the perception of those who judged her, even the powerful, through the sheer force of her courage. Richard Beaumont, humiliated but impressed, decided to meet Samantha. When he met her gaze, he felt a strange combination of respect and admiration. Harper. I wanted to apologize to you in person. I should never have made fun of you. Samantha, calm and serene, simply nodded. That wasn't why I did it. But I hope you learned something. The 10 shots, once ridiculed, had shaken an entire world of arrogance and wealth. Samantha hadn't just hit targets, she had struck at the prejudices, pride, and self-assurance of the billionaires. That day, the city understood a simple but powerful truth: strength doesn't always lie in money or power, but in the courage and determination of those who are underestimated. Samantha left the booth for the last time, a subtle smile lighting up her face. She knew her story would inspire far more people than the billionaires she had surprised. And somewhere deep inside, she felt a profound satisfaction. Sometimes, a simple gesture can shake the world of the powerful.